academic credentials to Narsi Monji Institute of Management Studies and Symbiosis International University. Professionally, I have around 16 years of experience in the domain of HR, worked in diverse industries. Currently, I'm undergoing my research in human resources, learning and development space from Symbiosis under the guidance of Dr. Seema Singh. Dr. Seema Singh is the director of Symbiosis Center of Corporate Education. I'm so happy that she is sharing the space today and gracing the event. Thanks so much, ma'am. Well, in the now, at the onset of my PhD journey, I have been intrigued with the buzzwords like artificial intelligence, Web 3.0, metaverse. While I was reading through the systematic literature reviews on metaverse, I realized that with the advent of the emerging technologies, emerging immersive technologies, there's still a massive gap between the understanding of its opportunities, the challenges, and the perils it holds. Hence, I decided to dive deep and explore further on this so that I could help quench the curiosity, intellectual curiosity of all in this community so that it can help them evolve in the age of technology that we are in. Well, as you can see on the screen, the topic of my paper is decoding the ideas square, that is emerging technologies for better human resources and business outcomes, right? The paper flow has been given as like this. I've started with a quick introduction and concluded with the references that I have taken to prepare this paper. For the objective, one second, yeah. Okay, as we all know that we are in a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, or they say as BANI, right? That is the brittle, anxious, non-linear, and incomprehensible, or as simply said, friends, is the challenging times that we're living in. So we as HR leaders and business leaders of today, we need to build systems that so that we can empower people and help them mitigate these changes. In this immersive technology, definitely which is taking a very strong foothold, like virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, extended reality, and also parallelly the metaverse. It is really being promoted, as you must have read through, in various sectors today. This technology is the one which I've spotlighted in my paper. The core objective of my paper is how we can decode this acronym of ideas. That is how we can make it more inclusive, diverse, ethical, accessible, safe, and secure so that we can ensure it benefits all its stakeholders. Let's start with the story of metaverse. Well, the metaverse story started in the year when the internet was actually initiated. That was in the year 1983, followed by which Neil Stephenson wrote a very iconic book, that is Snow Crash. That's the first time when metaverse actually was coined. The concept of metaverse, as you can notice, it has been since 40 years from now, both in the science as well as in real life. And the pace has actually been accelerating. Well, the reason why it is so high on the agenda today is that we are seeing a rapid acceleration, development activity because it has been adopted in sectors like gaming, the social media, retail, medical sciences, aviation, technology, and many more. So being cognizant of this, that this is the future, friends, there have been many use cases of companies who are actively working today on this technology, knowing that this will definitely revolutionize every industry, and I would say every function for that matter going forward. But they are all working in silos. That's the kind of a concern. There is no integral effort to define a common landscape for metaverse today. There are so many theories and so many concepts going on, but no definite tool or platform. Why? The reason I could gauge, probably because metaverse is still in its embryonic stage. In fact, some experts today also believe that the current metaverse that we are interfacing is not even metaverse, friends, but a world of unconnected proto-metaverses. That is the early phase of metaverse. So leading players, they have put forward their own slant on what metaverse means to them. However, the one I could resonate the best was with the one shared by Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Meta, who said that metaverse is a successor of mobile internet that will elevate physical world, social experiences, and which will be co-created and built responsibly. I do try to put down my way of putting the definition of metaverse, which goes like, it's a social construct that converges or merges physical and digital lives by using of various technology like Web 3.0, blockchain, computer interfaces, thereby allowing with individuals to socialize with their avatar, their own personal identity. Do let me know in the comment box, how do you find this definition? Let's look at how this study actually has been done. I have gone through a lot of literature reviews, highlighting only on the high quality journals like Scopus, Web of Science, Google Scholar, McKinsey reports, and I've gone through a lot of other market research reports as well, which have been floated day in, day out by other LinkedIn platforms or Statista. I have gone through many webinars, attended some interviews online, and tried to summarize the key findings of the key opinion leaders who are experts in this field. Well, before we actually dive down to the key findings, let's look at what is the present scenario, friends. Many people seem to be actually still vacillating. They are still oscillating or wavering between what is the wonder of metaverse here and also the fear of the inherent risk that is there. Irrespective of the risk, the sooner we embrace it with appropriate guardrails, for sure, it is going to be better for the community. So we can develop a good metaverse if you follow these 7 standards of metaverse, which is going to complement the physical world, which are how we can build the humanity. It has to be built for the humanity, social good. Second, it has to be accessible to all. We should be able to provide better educational and job opportunities, create a spirit of collaboration, which is the highest value. We have to eradicate the territorial way of thinking, friends. And the top priority is, of course, the safety and security, thereby ensuring that it is also taking care of the physical and the mental health of all the stakeholders. Here comes the findings with respect to the business outcomes. It would open definitely new frontiers for business or markets, improving accessibility to customers with real-time experiences, greater scope of influence, marketing of products and services. Thereby, you will be able to build a better brand equity, enhance the market reach, reduce the overhead cost. It's no-brainer. It's going to minimize travel time, right? And also enhance the productivity. On the flip side, there are various technical and logistical challenges because it is going to require high investment in infrastructure, high speed computing, and internet connections like 5G, 3G going forward, but that could be also a major roadblock. And of course, we all know that's going to consume high energy, and sustainability issues also are a concern. So there is also the threat to data privacy, security, cyber crimes. Let me highlight one point here on data security. The threat is so high that it can actually hamper the innovation, the trust, and erode consumer confidence. Additionally, we all are aware that we are going through a volatile digital economy. Let's have a look at what HR has in share out here. Well, it's going to benefit in providing various opportunities in enhancing the quality of learning and development by making it more immersive, practical, and rich. It will provide a better reach, flexibility, and network interoperability. Scope of better opportunities for employee engagement and cognitive aptitudes, of course, there. It will reduce the cost of training, better access to training programs. In fact, there are many companies already have started also the onboarding and the orientation of new hires by using metaverse across the globe. It will enable greater democratization of talent so that we can have an equitable workforce in place and provide a wider scope of developing new cultures, new norms, and thereby new policies. Let's play a devil's advocate here. There are, of course, limitations. There's still a reluctance or the resistance to adopt this change of technological trend. And the companies will have a really uphill task, to reorient the company to take up this change. And as I said earlier, it's expensive, hence is not accessible to all. And there is a fear of skill obsolescence. We have to ensure that we are continuously upskilling and reskilling ourselves so that we can match up with the industry demands. I'm sure you can resonate with what I'm sharing out here, right? And of course, nevertheless, it's going to cause physical and mental fatigue due to prolonged use of technology. We have seen the mobile usage, right? We have seen how much negative impact it has. Additionally, there's a threat to the psychological safety of our employees. Well, friends, given all that, I agree there are a lot of risk involved. And even the key leaders also agree on this. And that's why they're actually figuring out and they're trying to mitigate and ensure how this technology can be used for the wellness of humanity and for the social good. Well, now, scope of research, it's enormous. It's definitely massive. Just like our imagination, metaverse can teleport you anywhere. So looking at the domain of HR, what we can do, we can apply it in performance management. It has a potential to revolutionize the anatomy of work, and you can also explore innovative ways in your specialization areas, like maybe in talent acquisition, you can try something new, learning and development, employee engagement, so that you can fulfill the social needs. Definitely, sky is the limit here. So the mighty big mission here is how do we execute these ideas with clarity and build them block by block so that every function actually we can make it more multidisciplinary so that it can help organizations thrive in the metaverse area. Well, so to conclude, I would say as a research scholar and a learning development activist, I'm 100% committed to contributing the success of this metaverse story. The metaverse to come to fruition, of course, will depend on collaboration, the highlighter out here, with like-minded companies, countries, like-minded researchers like you and me, the government, the consumers, and the creators. They have to all join hands. And of course, we have to also take into the fold the policymakers, right? So through my research that I intend to do, which is in progression, I shall consistently catch up with the trends and possibly the defining moments by being affiliated with metaverse experts, which will shape and definitely reshape this space. So here is a quick glance at the key references I have used to write this paper, and wrapping up with this hope that I'm sure this research paper inputs will inspire and help you to navigate through the technological fog in case you're facing, if any, and help you make right strategic decisions based on this emerging technology. Well, I'm feeling incredibly energized with what the future holds, and I can't just see how the magic is unfolding. I'm sure even you're feeling the same if you are in the same space of work. So let's join hands and work towards a metaverse area. Well, with that, I'm wrapping up my presentation. I'm sure you're going to post up your queries through an email or the chat box. I'll be happy to answer them. With that note, I say thank you to everyone for your active listening, and I hope you have a wonderful, hyper, super, ultra productive day ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your wonderful presentation and very nice research work and a unique topic indeed. Like 20 the recent generation topic, which has been taken into the research and implementing it. So
Sure.
just curious about understanding about how the HR policy makers and like how are you planning to collaborate this metaverse and human policy makers with because majority of the things will be in virtual world and you're like are you like right now we see a lot of work from home and many things are in process, but metaverse is way too different technology implementation. So it is like coming into like we see augmented reality and like one more level of those things comes in metaverse. So when it comes to HR, for companies like manpower hiring or maybe with respect to policy and increments and many HR policies implementation, or like how are these collaborations can be possible I couldn't able to get a slight
Yeah.
picture out here because everything is in virtual world, and how HR will be monitoring it, or else you're planning to collaborate HR also to the virtual world or something.
Absolutely, absolutely. HR has to be there. Without the HR and business partnership, things cannot thrive, right? So how I intended to go about is I'm partnering with some companies during my interview session, which I've also lined some companies. I'm going to meet some key opinion leaders. I'm working on my questionnaires, and I'm going to understand how they've actually implemented this. For example, to give you a case study here, Accenture is doing very actively on the onboarding with Metaverse. They're also doing the orientation programs. So I've also identified the person I'm going to interact and understand the nuances of it, and how we can extend not only in onboarding and the orientation part, how we can take this further to performance management, employee engagement, wellness. I'm exploring all those avenues here by partnering and talking to them. I have to be with them. That's how my plans are. So I've already chalked out the list of the companies with whom I'm going to interact very shortly.
I haven't spoken much, but let me just tell you one thing. This particular PhD student and scholar is excellent, but we already know about a lot of things that we discussed. It is also available with different companies like Wipro, where they're already joining hands, and a lot of virtual things are happening in the HR domain as well. So we're doing further work on that, Dr. Ravi.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hassan Bayat, and today I'm going to present about a novel process system for recovering energy, water, and nitrogen resources from exhaust flue gases. The idea is filed with the US office last year, and we hope to be granted, inshallah, very soon. So the agenda, I'm going to explain what the flue gases are, then I'm going to explain a Rankine cycle, the current system, and what we did to innovate the system. And then I'm going to cover the benefit of this with a conclusion. So due to the restriction of time, I'll try to go very, very briefly. If you have any question, I'll put my email in the chat box, so you can always email me and ask questions about the idea. So the composition of flue gases, it consists of 73% of nitrogen, 8% of H2O, 14% of CO2, 3% of oxygen, and 2% of other stuff. So these are materials and substances that we can use and utilize and recover from the flue gases. However, in the current system, it's just going into waste. So what is a Rankine cycle? It's a very important concept that we need to understand the idea. So basically, a Rankine cycle consists of a pump, and in this pump, it will push the hot combustion flue gases. Then through this circle, it will cool it and make it cool. Through that, it will go to a turbine, and this turbine will generate electricity. And we're going to use this gas and cool it down to be through a fin fan air cooler. After cooling it, it will be basically a condensed refrigerant. Then we're going to store it into a tank, and then we're going to use this tank to basically pump it again. So it's a closed cycle of generating electricity without any loss of energies, in theory, of course. So the current system, we have this compressor with a turbine. The flue gases is going out of the turbine with 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Then it will go basically to two exhaust, a bypass exhaust if it's needed. But originally it will recover the steam, and the recovered steam will be used into the manufacture if it's required. Then in the second stage, after the recovery, the flue gases will go out with a temperature of 500 Fahrenheit with all the wasted resources. So our idea was to basically create a third exhaust system, as shown here. So from the second exhaust, everything is the same as the current one. But that's our innovation, is to create a third exhaust system. And this exhaust system, we're going to push it with a blower and going through the Rankine cycle that I explained in the first. Through the Rankine cycle, we can recover the electricity through using the heat of the flue gases. Because if you remember, in the second exhaust, the temperature is 500 Fahrenheit. In addition to that, we can also push it into a nitrogen generators to recover nitrogen, as you can see here above the turbine. So here we can also recover nitrogen. In addition to that, if we put a tank with a cooler, we can also condense water, because if you remember in my first slide, I said 8% of the flue gases is basically water. So we can recover this water and use it into the utility as well. So through this innovation, we can recover energy, we can recover nitrogen and water. So through this, we can see that we can recovering based on the calculation and simulations, 0.18 megapower for each produced 1 megapower. So that's 18%. In addition to that, we can recover 35 USGP of condensed water for every 1 megapower that we're producing or generating. Also, we're producing 5.3 tons of per hour of nitrogen for each megawatt generated. And finally, we can capture 3.2 tons of CO2 every day for each 1 megapower generated. With this, I conclude my presentation. I'll put my email in the chat box. If you have any question about the idea, you can always go ahead and email me.
So good afternoon, everyone. This is Smriti Raghani, and I'm a PhD scholar, and my research topic is mostly related to subtle energies and how it impacts the build form and people who are actually experiencing the build form. So to start with, I'll give you a brief background of what all I'm going to present in this particular study. So first will be the introduction, what exactly I want to or what I intend to do in my studies. Then what exactly are the subtle energies when we are talking about subtle energies?
Pardon?
Sorry?
May I wait for turn or I've done it now?
Hello?
Yeah, please go ahead, Smriti. Junaid, you can present your presentation after this.
Okay, thank
Your
you.
presentation is ready. Please keep
Thank
it ready. We'll go ahead after this.
Yes, so then I'll explain what are subtle energies.
Yeah,
Then after
please
that,
go ahead.
what is the influence of subtle energies on human behavior, and how form and energy have the different relationship which impacts the human behavior. So like when we talk about subtle energies, there are various different viewpoints on that, and it is very difficult to actually explain it or convey it in a conventional scientific instrument to quantify or detect it. So these energy have a major impact on person's human's mental, body and emotional content. So in order to connect to these subtle energies at various level, different shapes can be used. Like when we are actually using a building, we are experiencing this energy fields, but without our knowledge. So if we have a proper understanding of these energies, the design of the building can be done in such a way that we have a proper type of energy environment inside the structure, which can be utilized for the best output or the best experience of the person. So subtle energies are created and contained inside the structures as a result of its form. Certain building energies and building designs typically have a particular impact on the user. Now, every architectural trend throughout the history has influenced the subtle energies in different spaces. Like we have seen different structures like Egyptian pyramids, domes, temple structures, churches, and many other meditation spaces. So everyone gets a different feeling there. So why is that? Is that because of the form? Is that because of the energy inside that? So that is what we need to conclude and we need to understand. So this paper and this study intends to study and analyze the correlationship of the build form and the subtle energy and its impact on the human, like who is actually perceiving that. Now, architecture conveys ideas through the use of spatial tools. Like when we are experiencing an architecture, it is a combination of different tools, or it is a combination of different elements all together. When proposed or when explained or when put forward in a proper form, in a proper proportion and in a proper combination, will give you the best and the maximum output or maximum usable space which is good or which is optimal, which gives you us an optimal experience. So when a building with a major or minor component is created, it is nothing but a sophisticated scale of different elements. Those are used in various mechanical principle applied to it. So this affects the people's quality of life, and why it is that? Because they spend the maximum time inside that. Now spaces have an impact on the behavior, decisions, emotions, and physical and mental health of the people. Like it has been studied, and it has been conveyed in many research papers that there is an effect of space on different type of person. Like a building, same building can have a different type of effect on one person, while it can have a different type of effect on other person. This is all because of the energy field or the emotions that are created or generated inside the structure. Along with that, the environment has a variety of effect on the people using the area. The space that has been designed with the user's significant influence in mind will provide architecture that gives the best outcome. So now, what is the significance of the subtle energy? The subtle energy is a historical phenomena that predicts the invention of modern science. So like since ancient time till now, we have seen, like everyone has spoken about energies, subtle energies, something that is not measurable but still can be felt. So but there are numerous spatial practices and methods of energy purification that have close connection to subtle energies. So these are not the very what you can say modernized phenomena yet, but we can see there are people who actually heal other people with the help of energy healing techniques. So this proves like there is existence of subtle energy which has an influence on the user based on the structure that they are actually using that. There are numerous subtle energies since they can be connected to the energetic, emotional, and mental bodies. So space is basically affecting your emotional well-being, mental health, human behavior, as well as physical behavior, physical health. So energy is therefore something that while in inert appear to be nothing, when moves or experienced, it gives you its effect of presence. It can be described as either full action or profound sleep. Now, psychological and sensitive intangible awareness is a component of vitality in the space. The influence of subtle energy on human behavior. Now what happens, the idea that subtle energies might affect how people behave has a root in many different belief systems as well as contemporary medical techniques. Many traditional medical approaches, including Chinese medical techniques, then pranic healing, then Reiki, all these are used to basically heal the energy body of a human of a human. So it is like it is said or it is studied and it is proved that there are different energy levels or energy bodies of a human like human being. So these energy bodies are nothing but different levels of energies at different concentrations. So when a healer or when a traditional practitioner heals a person, he tries to heal this energy levels, and this is how they actually practice the healing techniques. Now, what is the form and energy relationship? Now, we have seen the different types of energy bodies that a human have. We have seen that structure have a different, have a tendency to store or create or generate different types of energies inside that. So when we design or when we actually execute a structure which is at a par or at a balance, which gives the best output for balancing both of this at the same time, the actual usage or actual outcome of the contemplation of that space will be much more influential. So when we design a structure which is more human, which is more inclined towards the energy efficiency, the subtle energy efficiency, the overall well-being of a human being is more seen or more visible. So building design should be actually related to form and energy science, which can be achieved with the help of geometry or the elements of the building. So the in while concluding this, I would like to say that when we are actually designing a building, if these things are already taken under consideration, there will be huge impact on the output of the design that we are giving. So it will be more functional, more related to what the human being is actually lacking right now, the lacking of the gap between the natural healing and the gap between the technology and the nature. So that can be bridged with the help of like designing a structure which can be more speaking out to the in a natural way or in an energetic way. So these are some of the references that I have already taken, and that here I want to conclude my presentation.
Much. The topic of my presentation is the relationship between nepotism and presentism, the case of selected organizations in Ethiopia, which is part of organizational behavior. Okay, to make it full screen. Well, just as icebreaker, I used some entries just for motivational purpose. I say that basically I'm from Ethiopia and now I'm in Turkey. This is the some facts about Ethiopia you can view from my screen about capital, area, population, language, and the life expectancy of men and female. I'm introducing Ethiopian flag, the capital Addis Ababa, the coffee, the athletes for which Ethiopia is famous, and the green agriculture, cultivation, watering, and harvesting. At the same time, the natural resources, wild animals, forests, tree, caves, and other natural resources, cultural food, rituals, and animal parks in the capital. Then I will proceed to the my presentation. The contents are as you can see. Directly, I will go to the introduction. The topic I tried to examine the relation between nepotism and presentism, which are the constructs of organizational behavior, have their background in corruption, which is make use of public funds or properties for individual use, which is obstacle for economic development, which has typology of bureaucratic nepotism, patronage, and state capture, which are types of corruption. Among these elements or constructs, I dealt with nepotism, which enhances employee work stress, as most of us now, which decreases job satisfaction, trust in employer, perceived organizational justice, which halts employee job performance, and which may even result in resignation or turnover or ethical collapse in business organizations. From literature, it is recommended that a strong anti-nepotism policy is important. And when we say nepotism, there are different definitions, but the most commonly accepted definition is offering job or privilege to kinship or friends without considering qualification or merit. This is pervasive in collective culture, mostly seen in the developing countries and in eastern parts of the globe. But there is research gap concerning this construct as far as its concepts and the consequences are concerned. The purpose for which the organizations stick to this nepotism is due to trust in the loyalty. Its effects are demotivation and low performance, impact on human resource practices. Nepotism is some issues like management attitudes, subject norms, and individual beliefs or attributions important, and which this makes nepotism vary from organization to organization. Empowering needs to care regarding nepotism, not to cause organizational injustice. It's a kind of advice or recommendation seems. The second construct is presentism. Presentism, this also there is lack of research concerning this construct, but the most accepted definition is workers, they are shown up in workplaces, but they are distracted by illness, stress, or private issues at workplace. And from this one, I also dealt with the non-work related presentism, which is unproductive due to personal work engagement, which is characterized by additional task time, decreased motivation, capacity, and work quality. Functions and incomplete works are characteristics of this presentism in workplace. The causes can be rooted into occupation, policies of the company, and the climate of presentism. Its consequences are wide, but it impedes creativity, performance, employee concentration, and so forth. It also triggers accidents as we pay less attention for work, negative work outcomes, absenteeism, poor health condition, and others. The aim of this study was to see the relationship between nepotism and presentism. The research model is between these two constructs in Ethiopia. The hypothesis is nepotism is positively associated with presentism. This article is elicited from my thesis or dissertation of PhD, and the utilized questions 155. Over half of the respondents are younger than 35 years because they are from different organizations. 3/4 of the participants are from public sectors. The work experience ranges from beginners to more than 15 years. The instruments used are taken from nepotism scales by Abdullah, and presentism scales by D. Abate, 11 items for nepotism and 21 for presentism are taken from this previous researches. English language was used as instruction, as media of instruction for filling the questionnaire. The method used was a convenient sampling method. The questionnaires were collected from private and public companies in hard copy and online analysis of internal consistency and correlations are used as per the statistics of business. The regulation analysis was applied, and this is the table. From this, we understand that nepotic relationship. Okay, this nepotism has got two factors: nepotic relationship and preferential policy, as two dimensions. These two dimensions was regressed against this presentism, and one of these dimension, nepotism relationship, was positively related to presentism, as can you see from the statistics, but the preferential policy was negatively related to presentism. Unlike anticipated, the two dimensions of nepotism predicted presentism in different directions. Nepotic relationship tended to increase presentism, whereas preferential policy served to reduce its likelihood, and hence the hypothesis was partially supported. When we see a discussion of this research, and when we see against other previous researches, the nepotic relationship finding is congruent with previous researches by Sarvala and Akhtar and Malik's research. And the negative relationship between preferential policy and presentism may be caused by the concern of employees about loafing when favoritism has been formalized as a procedure used in the hiring and promoting. Due to this reason, the negative relationship is found to be showed. When we come to conclusion, nepotism harms personal and social relationships, impedes engagement and motivation, and so forth. Responsible HR practices genuinely supervise the quality of work to overcome nepotism and presentism and motivate and reward the employees. Management system is also important. Transparent, positive communication, conducive environment to enhance their knowledge and skill. Leaders care to their employees and solve their problems. Important. Okay. Non-work related presentism. Time employees waste on their private issues in the organization. Costly and hard to perceive, causing an invisible loss. Harm business and must strategically studied for way out, and others are the concluded ones. And this is my PhD journey as a memory I attached. I thank you for your attendance and patience, and sorry for the technical incident at the beginning. And if you have questions, you are welcome.
Good morning, everyone. This is Omkar Sonavne. I am currently pursuing Masters from Sandeep University, Nashik. I am final year student from Civil Engineering Department. Today, I am going to present my paper on topic titled Study of Redevelopment Procedure of Old and Dilapidated Buildings as per Section 79A of Maharashtra Cooperative Societies Act 1960 and its comparison with Section 41A of Gujarat Ownership Flats Act 2018. The contents of the presentation are as follows. It would include introduction, need of the study, objectives, study area profile, scope of work, methodology, Section 79A process in its entirety, Section 41A process in its entirety, data collection analysis, and last but not the least, proposition in 79A process and conclusion. For now, we will move to introduction. First, we need to see what is redevelopment. Redevelopment is the process of demolishing an existing building altogether and constructing a new one with new space and dimensions at the same site. It is a massive undertaking that requires a highly proactive and careful approach on the behalf of any building or housing society. The redevelopment of old and dilapidated buildings and its process from start to end is governed by Section 79A of Maharashtra Cooperative Societies Act in Maharashtra, which was introduced recently in the Principal Act respectively. Now let's move on to what is the need of the study. The redevelopment gives tenants modern facilities, amenities, gadgets like lifts, smoke detectors, fire system, concealed plumbing, and most important, additional carpet area, about 25 to 30%. But although, however, the process might sound easy, it is not really easy. It is riddled with various problems such as delay in flat possession, legal problems, corruption, management issues, ecological issues, lack of proper and efficient policies, and so on. Due to all these problems, Government of Maharashtra recently in 2019 itself introduced Section 79A, which deals with the redevelopment process of old and dilapidated buildings. But in reality, Section 79A also is not followed by the people or various stakeholders involved in the redevelopment. Overall, this study will help the redevelopment process and make it more feasible. Now let's move on to the objectives of the study, which are quite simple. The first objective is the study of Section 79A process under MCS Act 1960 and convert it into a flow chart for better understanding and research. Then further study of Section 41A in detail under the Gujarat Ownership Flats Act 2018 and similarly converting it into a flow chart for better understanding and research. And lastly, we will do a comparison of both and propose some modification in the original 79A. Now let's move on to see the study area. The study area selected for data collection and analysis, which would be fruitful in proposing the remedial improvements in 79A, would be the Rambagh area in the Kalyan Dombivli Municipal Corporation, which lies, as you can see, in the MMR region in the Maharashtra state of country of India respectively. The principal details of the study area are: perimeter is 1.27 kilometers, area is 0.1 square kilometers, number of buildings in an area. As we are dealing with the redevelopment of old buildings, we must have buildings in the study area. About 100 to 120 buildings from 1980s, 90s and 2000s are there. So thus making it ideal for the data for the study. As you can see the zoomed in map, which we see as in the previous slide, this is the ward map of KDMC. And in the ward map, this is the study area highlighted in the red block bounded by various roads. These are the few buildings which are taken into consideration for the study by me in the for this thesis. Few of which underwent successful redevelopment, as you can see in the most right hand side image, few failed to undergo. Now let's see the scope of the work. The scope of the work included to conduct an extensive survey regarding the redevelopment process and its barriers, to study in detail steps involved in the redevelopment process under 79A. Similarly, to study the steps involved in the section 41A, collection of relevant data from the municipal corporation, that is KDMC, and delineation of study area, including the sample sizing. Then for conducting a 3-tier opinion survey of various stakeholders involved in the redevelopment process in the study area. And lastly, analyzing the data, including graphical representation and suggesting plausible improvements in the section 79A respectively. The further, the methodology was followed as problem identification. Methodology used in the study was problem identification, problem definition, then the study area selection, then literature review. Further, the data was collected. It was divided into primary data, secondary data. Primary data included opinion survey, site visit data, and the secondary data included the existing data. As we are from research field, we know that existing data was collected from the KDMC. Further, sample sizing was done and collecting the existing policies. Further, this data was clubbed and analyzed, and final proposals were given. As you can see, this is the section as on the right hand side. It is given in Marathi script to all the foreign delegates. It is the regional language of Maharashtra. All the government work is carried out in this language. So this is the section 79A Act, which was recently came into force on 4th of July 2019. Now what we have done is, this was in Marathi. It was converted to English, and then it was converted to flowchart to find the technical shortcomings in the process. So this is the flowchart respectively. Due to the time constraint given by the conference chair, I will not explain each and every point, but I have summarized it. The flowchart includes various parameters, including SGM, that is Society General Meeting, application to secretary, management committees, suggestions, quorum criteria, appointment of project management consultant or architects, consent regarding redevelopment process by tenants, calling of tenders, feasibility report, objections, draft tenders, floating of tenders, tender processing, AO appointment, which is administrative officer appointment, selection of developer, development agreement, and finally handing over of the building and occupancy certificate. In a similar way, the Gujarat government also enacted the similar act due to the problem of old and dilapidated buildings, which you might see everywhere in your day-to-day life. It also came into effect on in 2019, that is 21st May 2019. In a similar fashion, this act was also converted from local language to English and to the flowchart to identify the shortcomings. Further, the comparison was done between both of them. The comparison, as you can see, the major points are really highlighted. Section Maharashtra's, in case of Maharashtra, the percentage consent, the highlighted part, the percentage consent is 51% of total members required, whereas in Gujarat it is 75%. Age factor criteria is not considered in Maharashtra, but it is considered in Gujarat. To write an application, not less than 1/5 members are required, and in case of Gujarat, not less than 1/6. Both acts were enacted in 2019, as we can see on the top. They work on a similar framework and structure. And in case of Maharashtra, role of registrar, AO, and provision for website making is given. But in case of Gujarat, it is not given. It is the continuation part of the comparison. For the developer selection in 79A, 51% members must be present, but this is absent in Gujarat Act. Further, quorum criteria is given in 79A, which dates from building 2 not get successfully redeveloped. It protects the building. And if it is not present in the Gujarat section 41A. The time limits are also different. Then the last and the 15th point, the criteria for number of tender received must be greater than 3, whereas in section 41A, there is no such criteria. Overall, then 16 and 17 points, it could be seen that the Maharashtra's Act has more checks and is more complex as compared to Gujarat. Further, to back the propositions, we have collected data which will back the propositions. Definitely, the data was collected from the study area shown in the previous slides. The study area population was considered as 13,500 based on the discussion with the engineer of the ULB. The finite correction population formula, that is the second, was used to calculate the sample size required for the data collection, where n is the sample size, z is the z-score, p is the sample proportion, e is the margin of error, and n is the population size. And in this next slide, we have calculated the sample size by inputting every value. The sample size came to be as 96. This is the graph, just showing that sample size was this margin of error. Further, the data was collected. You can see in the photo as well, various stakeholders were personally interviewed and data was collected through Google Forms. 2 forms were made. One for the stakeholders, that is the residents, and one for the type 2 questionnaire was made for another type 2 and type 3 stakeholders, which are engineers, architects, lawyers, consultants, government officers, and so on. As you can see, this is the GIS image of this study area made. So the purple color boundary of the buildings were selected on a random basis for the data collection, for the type 1 data collection, and total of 102 responses were received. So total, which is greater than the 96 of, we calculated the sample size, thus fulfilling the criteria for the accuracy. Now the type 2 data collection was also done in a similar fashion through second Google form. As you can see, these are the Google forms, and these are responses from the lawyers, proprietors, consultants, government officers, contractors, and so on. Further, the data was analyzed. The response rate was around 87.5%, 44.1%. As you can see in the white image given below, the trust levels of the residents in the redevelopment process, 44.1% of the respondents had no trust in the redevelopment process. Means they fear it, that they don't want to undergo the redevelopment process. And majority of the respondents agreed that the major policy changes are needed, thus backing the objectives of the slide that we are going to propose the changes in the act. Then the type 1 agreed 90.2%, and type 2 and 3 agreed 84.6%. The second image is the 79A section, and the various questions asked in the study area to the residents and the other stakeholders regarding 79A process, such as should there be improvement in 79A process, separate provision for redevelopment, separate redevelopment committee should be there, or there are problems by sub-registrar or government officials, thus by MC commits all decision. And should there be, majority of them agreed to them, as you can see, the yes, but except for the criteria that the after AO appointment there should be penalty or not, majority of them said.
Good evening to all participants. I am Joseph James and I am assisted with Tushar Singh and Tony Thomas. We are BE Computer Engineering students from Father C. Rodrigues Institute of Technology, Vashi, University of Mumbai. As part of our academic project, we were given a need-based project where we were to digitize certain student-oriented services which were currently going offline. We had to digitize it online. So now, without any further delay, I'll be presenting you our paper. So our agenda will be abstract, introduction, proposed system, system design, conclusion, and references that we have taken. So we have developed a web portal where the student admins can interact with each other, which helps in processing the application of student. The student logs into the web portal, selects the service that they want, and issues the application, fills up the details, and submits it. On the other side, the admins, relevant admins, processes the file, and the student is simultaneously able to notice the status tracker, at what level, at which stage their application is, and if there is any issues, they are notified. So we will be illustrating why is it necessary for a web portal to be there? What are the benefits of it? So these are the current systems that we are trying to do. Railway concession. For those of you who are not aware, we are doing this railway concession for the Mumbai Navi Mumbai Railways. So students are given, those students up till the age of 25 are given a subsidized pass for all students. So we, at the moment, our railway concession application is working perfectly. It has been deployed and has been used for more than 6 months. Here, usually what happens in the offline system, the student is supposed to take a paper, fill up the details, go to the office, then the office will fill up their details in another document, and side by side they have to fill up a pass, a concession, a receipt or a voucher, as you may call it. This all process will be handwritten, and then it goes to another staff, which is a register of the, it's a recognized register of the institute. They are recognized by the government, and only they are allowed to stamp and sign it. And then this is given to the student. So the issue happens during the peak hours, that is usually when the semester starts, is that the crowd management. All students will come and barge into the admin office, and it will become a chaos. At times, student applications is misplaced. And record tracking. Once a student is issued, this pass period is quarterly. That is for 3 months a pass is given. If a student misses it, then they are not supposed to be issued again. But then because of such chaos, it happens sometimes that they are not able to maintain the records. So to rectify all these issues, we have made we have digitized the system. Next is rest also. Then next comes a letter of recommendation. Here it's actually we check the eligibility of the student. For those of you not aware, in engineering colleges, students who are placed, who are going for placement, they are not supposed to take LORs, letter of recommendation as it is known. LORs are given mainly for those students who are going for higher education. So our system just ensures that whether the student is eligible or not, whether the student is a play student or a higher education student. And that is one thing. Next is leaving certificate. Leaving certificate. In leaving certificate, there are 4 departments or multiple departments as such that is a NOC process, non-objection certificate, where 4 departments issues a certificate stating that the student is eligible to take a leaving certificate and the student doesn't have any dues. Now the issue, what happens, all these departments are scattered throughout the campus, and student must go across the campus to meet the respective admins and then take the signature, and this is actually not communicated. So the student just randomly visits the admin. Admin is also not prepared for it. So our leaving certificate ensures that this application is given online and the admin gets enough time to study the application, and the student also doesn't have to travel around. Next is the internship request, where an internship application, the student is able to online send an application. And as you know, one student may give up to 10 internship applications, but only one place they are working. So this our system will help us to track, will help the placement cell to track how many companies have the student given an application and which company has been, they have been accepted, and all the relevant documents, they are able to store it. Last is the bona fide certificate. Bona fide, as you know, it is used for the purpose of stating, means the institute is stating that the student is part of our institute and all the details are legitimate, and it is used for multiple purposes like Aadhaar card, banking, and etc. So here also bona fide certificate application is usually given, a document is on pen and paper, so it becomes difficult to store it and all other things. So right now, a railway concession has been deployed, while other systems are 2 modules have been developed but not deployed, and others are still in final talks of it. So this is the current modules that we have been doing it. So now we will be going to literature survey. That is, we will be introducing you to the papers that we have studied related to, so as to improve our system. As you can see, implementation of e-railway system. web-enabled campus service, SQL injection, protection of PHP applications, role-based access controls. So these helped us to improve our applications, certain applications like web-enabled and e-railway. This is a campus service. So these have been deployed by other institute also, which helped us to understand what should be the basis, while other papers helped us to understand what will be the threats and how to secure our applications. So the key takeaways from the literature survey that we were able to take. One of our main, you can say, main feature is a role-based admins. That is for all, be it students, admins, super admins. For all, there's only one login page. They have to just give their ID and they are able to log in. And what are the threats like SQL injection that may occur? How to protect ourselves? What are the security features for PHP? Why is a web-enabled one-in-all management system better, and how to implement it in the campus? This was one main thing. And how to ensure that the campus service that we are developing, it should be in accordance with the governmental as well as education institution policies. And that means we cannot just simply develop it based on our creativeness. While creativeness is good and necessary, it should be on par with the policies of the governmental and education institutes. So these were the takeaways that helped us to understand how we are supposed to develop it. So the problem statement, that is the issues or challenges that were presented to us and how we have to do it. As you can see, these were the issues. As I mentioned already, though the institute has got multiple services, we are focusing on institute services that are related to the student, which is required for the student. So these services were pen and paper, that is, they have to either the form will be there on online, which they have to download, or they have to write the format. Then because there is no communication and because it is offline, students will crowd into the office, and if other sections of the office, admin office, had any work, it will bring chaos and disturb not only the students and a delay, but even to other staff members also. Then certain services like I explained the leaving certificate, multiple departments like library, HODs, your particular respective departments, office, placement cell, these all departments are part of LC issuing. So at times certain admin won't be there, then there's a delay, there's a miscommunication, it happens. Sometimes it has happened that it has been issued and then later was recognized that such an issue has been there. So these were the problems that the institute faced and were presented to us, and we were told to make a solution for it. So this is what we have proposed: a centralized web platform, that is one login where the student and the admin, one login where the student is able to view all the services and they have to just click on which is relevant to them. This ensures that there's an ease, transparency, that is the student is able to see and track their application status. And if, on the other hand, if there are multiple admins for particular service, they are also able to track the application on what way it is. They're able to see the workflow. There is a record management of it, file management of it. Ease because there's a good communication between between the staff to staff, staff to students. That is, in all, it's an internal and external stakeholders are able to communicate more easily and more freely. Staff, when I say, it is both an admin staff as well as the faculties. So now the system design. Now this system design shall be presented to you by Tony Thomas and colleague of mine. So I'm handing over to Tony Thomas. Please take on.
Thank you, Joseph. So as Joseph mentioned, there are 4 to 5 services we are providing. So there is living certificate, railway concession, bond certificate, internship request, and the student data collection. So there are 3 admins and super admins oversees their actions and control their administrative rights. And there is student who access the services. So the students can apply these applications here, and the department admin, office admins, and placement admin do manage the request. For example, the department admin process the living certificate and The office admins also manages the living certificate and bona fide certificate, and as well as students' data collection and maintenance is done by office admin. Whereas placement admin manages the internship request. And the supervisor admins overviews all the roles that are students, department admins, and office admins, and placement admins. So super admin is main admin who manages all the roles, and they can assign or and remove any kind of roles when they need. So the super admin is the head manager of our institute. They will be managing the whole system. Next. So this is the use case diagram of the railway consent system as it had been deployed. So I will explain the working of the railway consent system. So the students submits the application, and the admin receives the railway office admin. Here the office admin receives the application, and there are 3 stages: the verification stage, processing stage, and issuing stage. So first stage is the verification stage. So they have to verify the details they are providing, different details like which stations they are from, and every their documents. For example, the ID card, and if they're renewing, then the current pass. So if anything is wrong and something is missing, then they can reject the application, and the students will the application will be reverted back to the student with the notification. And if everything is right, then they can move ahead. But there are some challenges that the data is correct, but still the office admins feel something is not up to that, and they have to physically talk to them. Then we have given provision to hold the application, where the student will notified, and they have to physically meet them. This occurs very rarely, but still this was the situation provided by them. So we additionally added the hold situation here. So when everything is okay and they think that the discrepancy was cleared out, then they can unhold it, and it moves to processing of application. So during the processing application, the office admin will assign a certificate that is provided by the railway, in Central Railway. This certificate is to be submitted by students to receive the concession. So this is a certificate that is provided by the institute. For this, they are students are applying. So this is during the processing stage. The office admin assigns a certificate number to the application and processes it. When they process the application, students receive a notification, and after students come to collection, then the concession is issued to the student. And the application is locked for 3 months, as the concession is valid for 3 months. So the application is locked. So student cannot misuse the systems for applying again and again. So this also restricts them from multiple applications. Next. So I will conclude the paper. So our main aim was to digitize the entire system. So the campus service project revolutionized the way students access essential service by transitioning them into a user-friendly online platform, by eliminating manual paperwork and enabling efficient digital workflows. The project aims to enhance student satisfaction, reduce administrative burden, and improve overall efficiency. Thank you.
So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gautami. I am studying MTech Computer Aided Structural Engineering in Reva University. Just completed my 4th semester recently. So this is my project work regarding the behavior of the steel structure under static structural and thermal analysis using the ANSYS workbench. So as we know that these are the contents which I have mentioned in this. So as we know that steel is an incredible material which is used for construction, as we can also say that it is a backbone of the building because of its flexibility, durability, and its strength. As the steel is a stronger material than the other materials like wood, concrete, because those are the lighter materials. The steel is a highly durable material because it does not crack and do not degrade due to its moisture content or long lasting material. Also, it comes under the low maintenance. So, as it is a non combustible material which is safe for the construction itself in terms of the fire resistance. When it comes to the flexibility, as the steel is flexible so that it can changes according to the shape which we needed. So, it is a environmental friendly and recyclable material. So this steel which I have used for my design project is the I-beam section, which is the universal beam. So I have taken from the steel stables ISWB 356 into 171 with the dimensions according to it. The steel in construction field applications which are involved for the bridge and stadium and commercial complexes, which is useful for the developing of frames, trusses, columns, beams, and structural supports for a primary support of this building. So these are the pictures which I have mentioned in the PPT. So these are the materials which I have taken for the design. So this is the design which I have created in the ANSYS software according to its dimensions which I have taken in the XY axis plane. So these are the some of the literature reviews I have gone through. These literature reviews helped me to find the chances of the steel structure, how does it responses to different conditions, like from applying the external loads or maybe a thermal analysis, like different kinds of analysis. So there are some of the literature reviews which I have mentioned here is some of the steel beams which I have gone through is web openings. They have undergone the buckling loads, and they have done the static structural analysis. Some of the beams also they have mentioned about the cantilever beam and loadings and the responses, how they got the from its material properties. So some of the lightweight steel wall frames they have constructed from the, you also performed the thermal performances and how the material showed the responses, also calculated the 3D finite element model system. So some of them are gone through the finite element analysis and the different kinds of combinations of the steel material. So from these literature reviews I have a design which is I have created and the ANSYS workbench. This ANSYS workbench software, which is mostly useful for creating the models or the structures for solving the engineering complex problems, which determines the physics involved in the different kinds of analysis, like performing the static structural analysis, fluid analysis, dynamic analysis, steady state analysis, coupling analysis, etc. Methods. So this is the pathway of learning the ANSYS part. So the main objectives of my project is about the performing the mesh and the applications of loads and supports to design a rectangular steel structure in software, and to determine the response of the static structural and the thermal analysis by external load conditions, and to determine the stresses and deformations, and to study behavior of thermal loads. So this is the methodology which I have followed from the tutorials which I have gone through previous literature reviews. So answers workbench, presetting the model, like we need to draw the geometric of the model. I have taken the geometry of the model in the space claim modular. In that I have taken the engineering data of the material, have taken the structural steel material, and designed the model, which I have gone through the applying the boundary conditions and analyzed the result, and then waited for the result for conclusion. So this is the model which of the ANSYS display which I have created first of the static structural material, and selected all the data which I required for the process. So have designed the model in static structural and then transferred to the another analysis method. So these are the properties of the structural steel which I have got in the ANSYS software. So this is the flowchart material of the actual procedure of how I designed the model. So this is the line body diagram of the G plus 1 of the warehouse, which I have created in the design modular. This is the line body diagram of I section model, which I have given the dimensions according to the steel table books. This is the surface with beams and columns of the model of G+2, which I have created in the space claim modular. So static structural analysis, this is a procedure where we can determine the stresses and displacement from the external loads applied, and how the conditions applying to the model, and how the building responses to these external loads. So this is the mesh generation of the G+2 warehouse. So boundary conditions, while talking about the boundary conditions, I have taken the fixed supports for the 16 vertices of this G+2 model. So I have added the self weight, which actually it acts as a live load, dead load for the model. So when it comes to the live load, I have taken from the live load of IS 875 part 2, which is the code book used for the live load, which is actually calculated for the area of the model and the live load, so that it gives the line pressure, which acts as a uniformly distributed load to the structure. So I have applied the force of 50 kilonewton according to the edges and the surfaces which I have required for this structure. So these are the results I have got of the total deformation, directional deformation, maximum principal stress, maximum principal strain, total bending moment, normal stress, normal elastic strain, total shear force, and the total shear moment diagram. So these are the connections for the software of the model which I have got. Actually, for the steel design, there will be a bolted and welded connections for the structure as per the software, which is inbuilt in the software for the connections, which is a really good process for the connections of the model. So total deformation, as we know that the total deformation, the name itself, we can say that there is a deformation in the body, like there is a change observed in the body or maybe the structure when the external loads are applied. So when it comes to the deformation values or maybe the changes, like there is no certain range for the uh, total deformation. It depends upon the external loads which you have applied. Also when it comes to the directional deformation, in the name itself, it defines that the direction, like in some particular axis we need the direction, whether it may be x axis or y axis or maybe a z axis. So have got the maximum and minimum for the deformation in the points in the picture. So when it comes to the maximum principal stress, as the object or maybe a body or the structure, it is subjected to any load, maybe the flexure or tension or maybe a compression, the stresses are developed in the body, so that these stresses are formed at different points. So the maximum stress is applied some at certain point. So I got the maximum point at the G+1 at the first floor. I have got the maximum point when compared to the roof. So this is the maximum principal strain as the highest magnitude of the strain, which refers the specific point for the external loads. So this strain is measurement of the deformation that occurs due to the applied stresses. So this is the total bending moment. As I can say that the bending moment is observed maximum in the columns of the line body of this structure. As the if we applied more load, the columns does not bear the excess load. It becomes very sagging, or maybe the flexure of the structure maybe loses, like the sagging and bending also happens. So the normal stresses, so this normal stresses are perpendicularly acting to the cross sectional area, which depends on the applying load. If when the load is applied in the compression, so the normal stresses will be compressing stresses. When the material undergoes any tension, so that stresses will be in the tensile. So this is the normal strain. So at some specific points within the elastic limit, so we'll get the normal strain. Also make sure that it does not undergo further elastic limit. If it does go to the elastic, if it go beyond the elastic limit, it might have chances to failure, or there is a collapse of this structure. So total shear force, which is calculated parallel to uh, the forces which are have applied to the surface, which are parallel to the cross sectional area. So there are maximum and minimum points which I have observed in the model, which is mostly in the columns of the model. So when it comes to about the thermal analysis, this thermal analysis, they have different types. There are transient thermal analysis and steady state thermal analysis. So have preferred the steady state thermal analysis. It means in this, the thermal loads can be applied to certain levels of the depending upon the material which we have used. So for example, in steel I have taken the maximum and minimum points of the temperature, like how it behaves at certain temperatures, the steel uh, which may melt, not melt, some in certain uh, situations the material can changes its certain position. So this thermal load which can applied at a single point or maybe at multiple points. So I have taken from the, according to European standards of the code book, I have determined the temperature to what extent the steel can bear its temperature. So these are the results I have got of the steady state thermal analysis. So according to this European standards, I have considered of 100 degrees and the 600 degrees as the maximum and minimum temperature, and also have calculated the conduction. So from this, so maximum and minimum points of the loads which are seen on the surface of the area of the structure. So these thermal loads which I have applied on the maximum and minimum of the temperatures on the edges of the structure of internal and the external surfaces. So at some point they were not changing any position, because if we consider according to the environmental temperature, for suppose of 25 degrees or 27 degrees, the model of this material does not show any variation. So I have taken as the minimum temperature of the 100 degrees Celsius. At least it can show some slight changes in the model. So for this there is a certain heat transfer will be constant to some period of time. So the maximum temperature for this model I have created only till 600, because we know after 600 maybe the this model may collapse, or maybe it changes its shape. And even though if it wants to come back, it may be after this normal strain, which also got beyond its elastic limit, it may not come back to its original position. So of getting more temperature in this structure, it may collapse the model. So this is the heat flux I have calculated from the using of thermal conductivity and the thickness which I have applied. This is the process for the conduction material. So have got while calculation of the manual calculation, I have got the 2.01, whereas in the software I have got the 2.04. It is almost approximate to this structure. So these are the materials have used for this structure. So when it comes to the conclusion, due to applying its more loads, the maximum bending moment which is observed in the columns, so due to the line pressure which acts as UDL, so maximum deformation. So at most of the cases, the loads which I have applied from the external, which is almost observed in the columns itself. When it comes to the thermal loads, whether you apply the load at a node or maybe edges or maybe body or maybe surface, so the same result will be displayed as the maximum and minimum points and the average temperature. So the temperature which I have considered is 100 and 600 degrees Celsius. So these methods of this using this ANSYS workbench is mostly to avoid the expensive failures, or to find out the weak low areas and its strength of the model before going to any construction. So there are a future scope for this software, as the ANSYS, which invests in research and development for its capabilities, actually which undergoes the cloud computing and the artificial intelligence which are incorporated. So new features are maybe added to the consumer and the industry demands. In future, ANSYS workbench for steel structure design is like to have two even more sophisticated tools and its function. So these ANSYS will give the user to satisfy his levels of satisfying its finite element analysis, even though we have the abacus, etabs and other softwares also. But comparing to the other devices softwares, so this finite element analysis is mostly observed in the ANSYS and the abacus. So depending upon the user choice, so ANSYS which is capable for understanding and the using. So some of the references which I have gone through are the selected ones which is necessary for my project. So